Right, so let's look at this next bullet point. Be able to explain what is happening in the graph below. Know what states of matter are present at points A through F. So this graph right here, we saw something very similar. One second, let me get to the right here. So let me actually erase this and erase this. And so here we have the same graph. I know it doesn't look exactly the same, but this is essentially the same thing, right? Remember here on the side, on the y-axis, the vertical axis, we have temperature as a dependent variable. The independent variable, the energy input that keeps changing, is down here on the x-axis, the horizontal axis, right? So remember, again, just a little reminder, dependent variable on the vertical y-axis and independent variable here on the horizontal x-axis. All right, but again, it's asking you what's happening in between these points right here. So for this graph helps you a little bit more. It's got a little bit more information on it. But right here, this is pretty much the way they were laying it out in the graph. So this would be point A right here. I know it's not as much space, point A, and then right here is point B. Right, and then next you would go, so this right here would be, let me draw it up here a little bit more. This would be point C. And so let me put that right there. Again, not as much space. And so then here from C, we'll put D right here. And then over here, you have point E down here in this corner. And then up here, you would have point F. All right, so this is basically the same thing that you had over there. Again, point A to point B to point C to point D to point E to point F, right? Very similar to this, A to B, B to C to D, D to E, E to F. All right, but again, this one doesn't give you as much information as this does right here. So remember, whenever you're looking at this A through B, and we're talking about ice here, we're talking about water. So A to B right here, it's solid, right? Everything below 0 degrees, you see the 0 right here, everything below that is going to be solid, right? It's going to be ice. So between A and B, it is going to be solid. Remember, between B and C, this is the heat of fusion right here. Remember, fusion means melting. So the heat of fusion is breaking the bonds so it can go from a solid to a liquid, right? Remember that because you may have to know what is going on between B and C. And so between C and D right here, it's a liquid, right? It just remains in liquid form. And then at 100, above 100 degrees is when water boils, right? 100 degrees Celsius. Above that, water boils. But remember here, this is the heat of vaporization between points D and E. The heat of vaporization is breaking the bonds that are keeping the water molecules together. And once those bonds break, it goes into a gas form. And here you see gas, right? So from E to F, it is in gas. So from A to B, it's solid. From C to D, it's liquid. From D to E, it's boiling. It's the heat of fusion, heat of vaporization. And then from E to F, it's gas.